Are you a local business owner who's just stuck, looking to scale your business? Maybe you're just burnt out. If your business needs you to survive, you don't own a business. You simply own a very stressful job. But don't worry, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show with your host, Paul Maskill.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for listening. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show, where we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs and dig into their highs, lows of their business building journey and learn about how they've been able to achieve their ultimate freedom. In today's episode number 3, we have another great guest with us here today. But before we do get started, just a quick reminder that you can get all the show notes by going to our website, paulmaskill.com. Or if you're on your iPhone, you can simply click on the podcast logo and the show notes will pop right up. And if you're looking to mastermind with other like-minded business owners, jump into our free Facebook group at bizfreedomformula.com. Oh, and did I mention all of our podcasts are also available on Facebook and YouTube, so you can check them out. No edits, right there live for you. So we're going to jump in with our guest today. He is a fantastic guy, super funny, super straight to the point. And if you're looking for good business advice as a business owner, he is the one. So Jon Butt is an entrepreneur who speaks, records, and writes hundreds of tips on business and marketing every year. He has helped thousands of business owners across the world get more clients, make more money, and win back their freedom from the shackles of business. Jon also runs the Owners Club, a learning community for entrepreneurs looking to build and grow a sustainable business. So that is Jon Butt from Marketing for Owners. Welcome, Jon. Thanks for being here. How's it going?
It's great. That guy sounds wonderful.
He does. I would love to spend some time and chat with him and hang out. So where can I find that guy at today in the world?
I'm on the edge of Vancouver in Canada, in South Surrey, just near the US border, in a lovely part of the world.
Awesome. And I think this is going to really speak to a lot of the business owners out there looking for freedom. Give them a little bit of glimpse into what you do in Vancouver and then where else you go and work from.
Well, in reality, I live in England, but I have my girlfriend happens to live in Canada, which is 5,000 miles away. So anyone want any advice on long distance relationship? Don't do it. But only been doing this for about 5 years. But so I have a business I have businesses in UK, and I spend pretty much a month in the UK and a month here. So every other month. So I just got here a couple of days ago. I'll be here for about 3 or 4 weeks and then back home. And my businesses just run. They just happen. So, and I do actually do some work. I had to point this out to someone the other day. I do actually work, but I'm lucky I can now choose what to do, when I do it, and where I want to do it, which is pretty cool.
Beautiful. And that's really what all of our listeners are striving for, building that freedom, putting the systems and processes in place. And I know when we've chatted before, you are all about systems. So other than traveling back and forth, what do you got going on today in your business world and personal life?
Yeah, so my day job, I think you call it, I run some fire safety businesses in the UK. So we sell things like fire extinguishers, smoke alarms, signs, and all that in a kind of Amazon way. Obviously, not quite as successful as them, but we sell it just in the UK. And so we've got a warehouse. We send everything out next day, and I also run the Marketing for Owners podcast because, of course, the things I've learned in my business, other people want to know, how do you do that? Or in fact, what I think they want to know is, Jon, how come you appear not to do any work and you appear to do okay? Are you a drug dealer? Or something like that. So I have to explain what I do and then explain how to do it. And that's where the Marketing for Owners and the Owners Club came from. And like I said, I can run these. I've set them up purposefully because I used to have, and I'm doing air quotes, a real business. When I say real business, as in one where I had to do the work in the old days, and I didn't like that, and I eventually sold it. It was successful, profitable, but I just didn't like all of the hassle that goes with it. You know, the staff, the suppliers, the tax man, the banks. So when I started Fire Protection Online, I swore I said, no way, not doing it the old way. There must be a better way. And of course there was.
So how did you kind of get how'd you kind of get started in all the, had you always been a business owner, or were you working for somebody else before you broke free and started up your own business that you eventually sold?
Well, funny enough, I wasn't. So I left school and I was taking a year off before I went to university. And because I was going to university because I didn't know what to do. And in fact, I was going to do business studies at school because for me, I just apply common sense to stuff. In my mind, the managers and the owners of the businesses make more money. So why not learn to be a manager, do business studies, John? So I was taking a year off, but it was boring. So I just grabbed a job. And the funny thing was, of all the people I'd ever met, some years ago, I met one guy who looked a bit smarter. He used to wear a suit and he had like a fancy car and was a salesman. So I thought I'd get a job as a salesman. Funny thing is, years later, it's obviously many years before when I was much more naive, because he only worked in a shop, in a store, selling TVs and electrical stuff. And his car was like a souped up, horrible little thing. But anyway, so I got a job as a salesman. It happened, I didn't know what it was selling. It happened to be selling fire extinguishers. And it was cold calling, commission only, door to door. And so I was instantly self-employed, which I think many of our listeners know as an entrepreneur. but I was real life, I figured that I could do this for myself. And so I then became a business owner, but still doing the same thing, day to day. I just had more hassle now. I had extra hassle. And then eventually it built up, and then I needed some staff because I was too busy. And it just went like that. So it was a natural progression. It was what I would call kind of accidental. I just fell into it. There was no plan. I'm not a genius like that.
You're just an ordinary guy that figured out a path to get to where you want to go.
Well, I think I didn't even know I wanted to go anywhere. I just was. I mean, it had to be done. It's like you work online. Once you start an online thing, you can't put up the closed sign for a couple of days and it's just on, isn't it? Once it's on, it's on. There is no off. And so I was just, once I'm there, I'm just, wow, I'm doing it. So I didn't have any entrepreneurial influence. I had no advice. I just did what I thought had to be done. And actually, obviously, like most people, I did it extremely wrong. And it took quite a few years before I started to realize that maybe there was a better way. I started looking at, at first I used to sort of not like the big companies because they do it all differently and don't like those. But eventually I thought, I wonder if that's how they became big, by doing it the way they did. And so I started to then learn to model success, to look at other successful businesses, successful people, and to kind of do it the way they did it, learn how to do it, and then tweak it to my own preference. I still didn't know anything about following famous, looking up, say, reading books or learning about that kind of thing. That came years later. But every now and again, I learned lessons. And the funny thing is, it's only retrospectively, looking back, that I realized what I learned. I didn't know it at the time. But when you look back, it all seemed to go so quick. But everything I did moved forward, and it moved forward. That's I think that's the important lesson: is always be moving forward. Don't look back and worry about what you did before. Just keep moving forward, almost falling forward. I guess you'd call it.
Perfect. Yeah, totally agree. And that's kind of one of the things we always talk about is doing two things every day to move you forward. To get to the next point in wherever you're trying to go. So, as you were scaling multiple businesses, along the way of your entrepreneurial self-employed career, what were some pivotal points there when you did, kind of scale it and take it to the next level?
Right. In my original business that I sold back in 2003, it took me like 20 years to get to that point. When I started the next one, it took me about 2 years to get to the same point. But so what I learned originally was the most important thing. You do everything yourself. When you're self-employed, you do everything yourself. You don't consider yourself as a business. And even if you have a business name, and when I started in my next business, I thought, I don't want to do all this. I don't want to open a mail and go down a bank and all that kind of, it will only take me 5 minutes, all those little jobs that you do. And so So as I kind of accidentally started the new business back in 2007, then I decided, okay, I'm going to employ people to do the things I don't want to do, even if I can't afford them, because you have to have confidence that if you have a good business idea, it will grow, even though you can't afford the people now. If you get them in there, stuff just kind of falls into place because it frees you up and you do more of what you were doing originally to get more customers or whatever it is. And it just works. And so I think that was the most important thing, was to stop kind of penny pinching and to get people in to do the stuff that you should not be doing, like the admin and bookkeeping. That kind of stuff. In fact, the pivotal moment was actually listening to Brad Fallon, who's a good friend, many years ago, and in a talk he just said, "Stop playing at QuickBooks." He said that. I remember that. And at the time, I was using QuickBooks, and that resonated. As soon as I got home from that conference, I hired a bookkeeper, and that actually was the start of me getting people in. That was the change.
Awesome. Totally agree with your kind of mindset and how you've done that. I mean, that's really, a lot of people will look at it as a cost if you're paying somebody to do something, but really it's an investment, so that way you don't have to do it, and then you can spend more time doing what you really want to do, growing your business, that kind of thing.
Don't look at it as a cost. Look at it as what you're missing out on. You're looking at the pessimistic side. I mean, people talk of pessimist and optimist. I'm actually in the middle, a realist, and people think I should be optimistic, and then they say, "Why are you pessimistic?" I say, "No, I'm realist." But if you're not, you might be saving some money, but you're missing out, and that's the thing. Don't think that you can't do something. You are missing out on something. So just do it. If it doesn't work, you can always go back. If it doesn't work, you can always go back. Nothing is permanent. You've got to try. If you don't try, nothing will happen.
That is totally true. And the worst case scenario in a lot of people's minds is a lot worse than what could really go wrong. And like you said, if it doesn't work, learn from it and backpedal and then go forward again. So now your businesses are pretty much, sounds like, automated, systematized. You're doing whatever you want to do when you want to do it, making those choices. So kind of dig in and provide some relevant, like how, things that are actually applicable to a day-to-day business. What are you doing on a daily basis? What's a normal day kind of like, and what's allowing you to do that?
Well, for me, I haven't signed a check or made paid people or hired or fired anyone for years, because the things I don't like doing, I'll be very honest, I do not like dealing with staff. Or rather, I like it when it's all nice. But when they say, the thing that would keep me awake at night is John, have you got a minute? Which means, in my mind, mine instantly means pay rise or leaving.
Yep.
It's never anything, hey, John, I love working here. It's always the bad side. That's the pessimist side. But so because I didn't like that, I got rid of that. So the things I do like, though, are I suppose I like marketing, because in this modern era, you can see the results of your marketing. In the old days, for instance, if you put stuff in Yellow Pages, you just assumed it was working. If you had
There was nothing to measure to tell you that it was a commercial or a print ad was actually working or doing something.
I think it was based on, we haven't got any ads anywhere else, and customers come here. It must be from that. But now you can see the results. So I could tweak something. So I sometimes like to tweak AdWords and stuff. I also, so I wouldn't like to have a job as an AdWords person, but I might mess about in that, because you can make a little tweak and have a result very quickly. And I like very quick results, being impatient. The other one is I always keep an eye on my sort of bellwether for the business. At the end of every day, I actually log into my e-commerce platforms and have a look at the large orders, which means I only look at about sort of 10 orders a day. So it gives me a general sense of what we're selling and how the business is. So I'm really the I hate to use this term, but someone else use this, the visionary, the kind of the guide, the almost the presidential role, the chairman above. So,
right.
So my idea, my idea, and I'll suggest it to my staff, and I'll convince them that it's a good idea. So that's the first thing. I don't tell them we're doing this. I make them think it's their idea, and
perfect,
and that it's good, because people. And here's a lesson for anyone who's thinking all systems and things. If you write the systems yourself and give it to someone, that's you giving them an instruction on how to do the job that they've been doing for ages that they think they already know how to do. If they write it themselves, they'll be quite happy to use it. So that's a major thing. If you write it and give it to them, they won't do it. You're wasting your time. Just as a aside on a tangent, not only have I never written a single system in my entire life, I've never even seen one of our own. And there's a weird thing. And I only realized this a few weeks ago when one of my clients was asking me about it, because I was going to send one, I was going to describe it, and then I realized I've never seen one. And that's, and we're systemized. I believe, I've been told we are, but maybe we're not. I've never seen one.
Somehow it keeps on running though.
Well, it must. Yeah, I think that must be the reason. But so I kind of dabble in bigger things that would move us forward. So although I might sort of mess about in AdWords, it's otherwise, I probably don't need to, but I'd feel unimportant. I feel one of the things of when you don't do stuff, when you go to work, you feel a little embarrassed that you're a bit of a waste of space. You've got nothing to do. You're interfering in everyone's way, or is that just me? But so I'll do stuff to make myself feel important. But really, in the background, I'm looking at bigger ideas. So I see things every day, the next new shiny on the internet, and I'm trying to figure out what not to do and what to do. And so one of the things we did last year, we put in, I'd actually been thinking about it for at least a year, and we made this big move in August, and sales are up, I believe something like 30% since then. And recently, I found out from my staff that my general manager and my finance guy had chatted in a meeting that they wouldn't have been. They were talking on how brave I was, some of the decisions, and they said they wouldn't have had the bottle to make that decision. and it really hadn't occurred to me like that. I thought I'd considered every angle and done it. It worked, but it's all down to me. If it didn't work, my fault. That's the thing. Everything is my fault in my business. Every single thing that goes wrong is my fault, and that's another good way to think as well about your business.
And that's okay, right? I mean, you're gonna.
Yeah. Well, if it's not your fault, then you're going to blame someone else, aren't you? And you should never blame your staff. If your staff couldn't do it, you hadn't given them the training, you haven't given them the tools, you haven't given their manager the training or the tools, or it's your fault. And if you don't accept it, things and this applies, dear listener, to everyday life. Stop whining. It's your fault. If you accept responsibility, it's a lot easier to deal with things.
Totally understand. And I mean, even when I was building my staff with our last business, it was the exact same thing. If something went wrong and they did it, they're not going to do something wrong on purpose. They did it wrong because you didn't give them the correct training, guidance, leadership, vision, whatever it was. But then you put a system in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I totally agree with, your everyday life is exact same thing. Instead of blaming somebody else, own it, make it better, and then improve your business or improve your life or whatever the case may be. So,
and remember, these people are allowed to have children. They're allowed to drive on the roads in big cars and all sorts without your permission and without your say-so. And sometimes their kids can get ill. Sometimes they might have an accident on the road. Don't worry about it. These are humans just the same as you, everybody. They're not staff. They're just like you. They can be trusted to do stuff. And as soon as you start trusting them to do things and using their own initiative, then you can get on with your life.
Beautiful. Well said. So as you are striving for that freedom, that's really, if you're going to start delegating, you got to trust them, give them an environment to thrive. And then when things do come up, make them better. So definitely a lot of good takeaways there. So kind of diving into now, what are you working on currently? What kind of projects do you got going on, marketing for owners or your fire business or anything else going on?
In the fire business, one of the major moves is a mindset, which is this is remarkable. You think of sort of just changing mindset, but last year, it occurred to me that I was thinking that we are an e-commerce business. Now, our company's name is Fire Protection Online, and we are an e-commerce business. If you actually think as an e-commerce business, you restrict yourself to everything relating to e-commerce businesses. My staff drive to a building in cars and ship stuff out and work in a warehouse, to, answer phones and all sorts. So it's only me. But as soon as I realized, hey, we're just a business, and e-commerce, the internet is where we deal with things. So I realized we are really a direct response business, and there are many other ways we can. So we're just creating our first direct mail catalog, and we've hired a direct mail company, various consultants to build up a massive direct mail campaign. So that's what we're doing in the fire business. So we are no longer e-commerce. That's just one path to the customers. In Marketing for Owners, or really the Owners Club, we have a free membership, but to be honest, free membership is a bit pants. And as our most of which is an English phrase, people, but as our most of the free things, I'll make no bones about it. You said I was a bit blunt on things. I want you in the paid one, but it's only £29 a month, which is like, what's that, $35. But there's a lot of information, and we found it's a bit hard for people to sort of figure what do they look for, what's the best, what do they miss. So we're building a kind of roadmap within it to give people some pathways to do this, then do that, then do that. Don't just guess. To do it the right way, do this, which came from listening to customers and asking them how we could improve it. People told us, and we're doing it. So I think that's a good lesson to learn as well.
That is always good to listen to your customers, and kind of going back to your fire protection business. That's so true. And a lot of people that I talk with and work with, it's kind of the same thing. You kind of get tunnel vision of this is what we do, and then you're totally missing out on possibly another revenue stream opportunity to serve more customers. So as far as Marketing for Owners, we'll definitely link that up. If you want to join the Owners Club, Jon would love to have you. I'm sure he will take great care of you. So kind of moving on in the conversation, now that we've got that, clearly, I believe, at least from the outside looking in, you are achieving your ideal view of freedom. And how are you making sure you achieve that on a daily basis?
Yeah, I have to admit, it doesn't. You've got to keep on top of these things. So I still have to manage my time, because if you think. You can't. A lot of us, years ago, when I was young, I used to think the dream would be to sell my business and go and lie on a beach. But I actually sold my business, and although I didn't lie on a beach, I got bored within about 5 minutes.
That makes two of us.
Yes. So you have to do something. Now, previously, before I bumped up, say, Marketing for Owners, I already kept myself busy, but then added another business. So that meant that something had to go from the original business, to keep. Otherwise, all this would add. When would I fit the rest in? In the evenings, maybe on my weekends again. So I think it's a constant battle. And I mentioned at the beginning, I'm actually starting a new business in July. So this time, yes, we're planning it instead of just diving in on day one. And I'm starting this with my son. My son is 17.
Wow.
And it was it's one of those, stop thinking about a new business, Jon. Forget about it. Forget about it.
But you couldn't.
I kind of could, but one day he suddenly said to me, Dad, he said, I'd like to do that business. And he's not that type at all. He's, I think I'd accused him of never doing anything. Then he's, of being lazy. I think this is a follow-on from that. And so we're doing it. And so, but when am I going to fit that in? So now I am looking at my Marketing for Owners business and thinking, okay, Jon, which things are you doing that you don't need to do? And I'm delegating. I don't know if that's a term. So delegating more things that I shouldn't be doing. So I think you've got to keep on top of this personal time management, because I do not want to work kind of all day and then all evening, even if I'm picking the easy work, and that Parkinson's law where you just fill your time. And I don't want to think, well, what else can you do, Jon? You can, and that keeps me busy.
Very, very awesome. And I think it really does, like you said, come down to choices, and fitting in that personal time and delegating everything to make that choice to, make that investment. So that way you are building that business so that business can support your lifestyle. So, well, this has been great, but as you know, all good things do come to an end. After all, we are all about freedom on the show. So we don't want to take up too much of your time, Jon, or our listeners. But before we sign off, it is time for our rapid recommendations for all things related to systems, automation, and freedom. So I'm going to give you 6 topics. You're going to give me one thing from each topic that you recommend our listeners check out today. So first things first is one book that you would recommend.
Well, my entire business is built on the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. So that one, and I recommend having a look at his latest one called Beyond the E-Myth as well.
Perfect. So we'll definitely link that up. Michael Gerber is a fantastic person when it comes to building a business that doesn't need the owner to survive. Second thing would be a quote.
I think it's one of those anonymous ones, but slow and steady wins the race.
It does. Every day, every time that you're looking at anything when it comes to business and in life. So next thing would be some sort of technology tool that you use on a daily basis to help automate your business.
I would recommend, if you've never tried it, just to go for good old Evernote and learn to use it really well. Follow what Michael Hyatt does with it. It's pretty powerful.
Love it. Evernote, that's actually what I'm using right now to read through our podcast here. So Evernote, definitely check that out. And then next thing, besides the Marketing for Owners podcast, which is a fantastic podcast put on by yours truly, Jon Butt, what is one podcast that you listen to on a regular basis?
I think Amy Porterfield's, Online Marketing Made Easy, because it's good enough. You would pay to listen to that. The information, it's like a lesson, a course. It's really good, weekly.
Yeah, she does put out great content, and it is made easy step by step. And she always comes with a great download to go along with the podcast as well. So moving right along, what is one community, other than obviously the owners group, that you have that you hang out in regularly that you get a lot of insight from?
Ooh, right, I'm going to be controversial here, because one is I try not to hang out regularly in anything because they're a real time suck, and so I would actually say, if I didn't own one, if I didn't run one myself, I'd say avoid them at all costs. But I would say rather than marketing, I'd find one in your industry, an industry topic one, rather than just say a Facebook marketing group or something like that. Something specific to your trade or industry.
Awesome. So that's definitely a great piece of advice. Otherwise, you could get lost down a rabbit hole, wasting many hours and not really having anything to show for it. So niche down, find something that would actually be relevant to your industry that you're in. And then before we do go, what is one parting piece of advice for business owners out there who are stuck, burned out, or just trying to get over the hump?
Is that everybody else either is in the same position or has been there. All the people that you admire that look great, you are looking at the finished product, or they're possibly not showing you the truth. You never saw when they were struggling, or their prototypes or anything. So do not think that you are unusual. Do not think you're a loser or you're a failure or anything like that. This is just temporary. Every single business has gone through it and will go through it again and again, and your ability to deal with problems and to stop them reoccurring is what will get your success.
Perfect. Well said. I totally agree, especially in the social media world. Everybody shares all their highs and wins and celebrations, but they don't show all the dirty work and trials and tribulations that took to get there. At the end of the day, there is no overnight success. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay persistent, especially if you do believe in the service or product that you are providing. So, Jon Butt, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to impart some of your knowledge, wisdom, and enthusiasm to our community. Hopefully this helps everybody out there get one step closer to achieving ultimate freedom in their business and in life. But before we sign off, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you?
Well, I suppose the easiest way is if you go to marketingforowners.com, or you can, if you've got your credit card out, you can go to theownersclub.co. But that's the best place. You'll be able to find a podcast and everything. And most of my daily podcasts are a video. You can see how old I am and what I look like in real life, and to see how English I am. And I got grey hair. But go to that, and I'm sure you'll find everything from there.
Perfect. So that website again is marketingforowners.com. Super easy to remember, but if you forget it, we will put it in the show notes. And if you want to hang out with Jon on Twitter or Facebook, just look for Marketing Owners. And he also has a special gift for anybody out there looking for the 71 Ultimate Small Business Tools. Not 70, not 72, but the 71 Ultimate Small Business Tools. If you just go to marketingforowners.com/71, you can get that download and check out all those tools. Guaranteed you're not using all of them, and they might help your business get to where you want to go. So thanks again, Jon. Stay tuned for next week's episode as we dive into another fantastic interview with Tom Schwab from Interview Valet. And if you like what you're hearing, we'd always appreciate a friendly review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time, don't forget to join our free Facebook group, bizfreedomformula.com, where we can continue this conversation with like-minded entrepreneurs who are putting the plans in place to work less, make more, while increasing the value of their business and achieving ultimate freedom. Keep rocking, trust the process, and talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot for listening to this episode of the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show with your host, Paul Maskill. Go online, paulmaskill.com, for more great content and information. On Facebook.com/Business Freedom Formula, and you can tweet Paul anytime @Paul Maskill. We'll catch you next time on the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show.